I have a confession to make, and that is that I love watching from a distance the rituals of the small Baptist church down the street from me around Easter. I absolutely love just watching the flow of people coming and going, which happened even during the last 2 years because they conduct their Good Friday and their sunrise service outside. This morning, though, it occurred to me that perhaps I should change my ritual, because my ritual is to walk my dog so as to time it as to walk by the singing for the sunrise service. And it started to occur to me that that's a little weird. Like they're all over there thinking, there's that stalker that comes every year with that dog to watch the sunrise, but never comes to the service. And if I'd been a little more organized, I might have just gone to the sunrise service this morning, just to be there and be with people. But I had an unfortunate experience that involved the head falling off the bunny cake I was making for winter nights. And so, in fact, I didn't even get to walk by at the right time. By the time I walked by, the service was over, the people were dispersing, and yet I was glad to see that some had come. Because throughout this last week, what I heard over and over and over again was, this is a year that I don't want to celebrate Easter. Abandon hope, all ye who enter here. Though this phrase is a translation from Dante, my cultural context would be more the melodramatic Mel Brooks kind of way. It's an overstatement and an absurdity in that context, and yet that seemed to be the message of people that I was speaking to throughout this week. They weren't quite sure they had it in them to try to embrace hope, that slippery and tricky thing that has given us so much of the run for our money over these last years. And yet, how many of us really do need that message of sin and grace, as Union Theological School President Serene Jones put it, even in times when to embrace it might seem ridiculous? And I'll define what I mean and what she means by sin in a moment, so you can let your breath out now, in case you're worried about my influence from down the street. As I said, so many people told me they just weren't feeling Easter this year, and I understood, especially those among our younger generations who are watching and wondering about the course of their lives and what it will bring, and those who are venturing back out into the world and not quite sure that they're going to be able to stay in it for much longer. We have seen so much, we've been through so much, and we continue to face so much ahead of us. We know that others are enduring horrors that we cannot even imagine, nor do we wish to. Our thoughts this Easter morning are with the peoples of Ukraine, a culture renowned on this holiday for their beautiful Easter eggs, which capture designs inspired by that continuing miracle of nature, which our puppet friends spoke to us about earlier in this service. And our thoughts are also in this season of Ramadan with the people of Afghanistan, especially the generation of girls who have very little hope of the future they dreamed of just a year or two ago. With people who struggle to make their ends meet, stretched between gas prices and housing, and with those who are experiencing, the many who are experiencing this particular holiday this year without a loved one who was here the last time they experienced it. And there are many this year. So we are, as we gather here in the spirit of community, holding all of this and taking a moment to name it matters. For few of us in 2022 believe in that kind of easy redemption. We seek the hope that can live in the tension between and around the world in which we actually live. Here we are. Some of you perhaps more tentatively, some of you at home may just be still in your PJs. You might not have even gotten your coffee yet because you're just not sure if you're going to do this whole Easter thing. So we're here to encourage you, right, everybody here? We're here to encourage you. And we understand that while an easy story of when things get bad, we are saved by redemption kind of hope has lost some of its power, Perhaps some of the other kind of hope might rise anew with the beauty and power of last night's full moon. Our motivations, expectations, and hopes are not always as clear to us as we would want them to be, Serene Jones says to us. At times, we are not even aware of their presence. What I know about myself is that when I do not want to have hope, when I'm worn down, when I'm tired with disappointment, I still somehow find that somewhere inside of me is kindling that little spark that soon becomes an ember, that soon becomes a flame, and there I am, out in the world again. So on this Easter morning, just a few days from the time of Passover, and from that Jewish faith which the leader Jesus longed to reform by widening its embrace and ridding it of its excesses in his time. Many here have participated in the last few days in a Seder dinner, which I hope we will return to that tradition next year, for it's one of the most prized rituals of our shared year here. The part of the ritual I find myself thinking about this year is the drops of wine and the naming of the different plagues that we have endured, the plagues of locusts and illnesses and of other afflictions, and frogs, which always kind of worries me because I like frogs, but that's okay. But every time I go through that part of the ritual, I always feel this great relief, the sense of cleansing, that we've named what we need to name so we can get on to the message about continuing and moving and the Exodus. Torah scholar Aviva Zornberg reminds us, one can imagine the pressure at that moment in this story. It is not an ecstatic moment. It is a moment that in Hebrew, the word chephanzon means panic haste. You should eat the sacrifice that the Israelites are supposed to eat on that night in haste, which is a strange instruction. She says, you should prepare to eat it in haste. The people are told that so that they will have a sense of pressure, that they will feel that pressure in themselves to get out of this time of despair, as fast as possible, so that you can move into whatever hope is before you. It is the time when things are happening very fast in the moment, and people are almost not capable of registering what is really going on, as we often aren't in critical moments of experience. In this April 2022, we're glad to be eating with more people, visiting and celebrating, worshiping in this way. To look around and see these chairs so full is just a joy. To hear our choir together is truly a balm to the spirit. And yet, in this year, we still need this message of the vernal equinox, of Passover, the commitments of Ramadan, and a world-grounded Easter story more than we think. We know now that it's not a message of a foolish or giddy hope. It's a new and emerging hope that may not be quite as easy to grasp, and perhaps still is out there as a beacon. Krista Tippett reminds us that myths are not exactly true, but that some say that myths are those things that are so true that we must hear them again and again. And in this sense, we embrace this story again today. Serene Jones points out that the story, which is now in question for some of us, is the one that says that when bad things happen, they will be undone by a later, larger grace. That when we miss the mark, which is, of course, what the word sin means in its original archery context, when we miss the mark, when there is sin, there, even if we do not buy into that particular ethos, there is something larger that will come, that will allow us to transcend it and to move beyond it. So I'm going to invite you to take a moment to look around. Just to look around at the people who are here, those outside at the patio. It's beautiful to see all of you out there as well. And if you're at home, I invite you to picture to yourself the people who are most precious to you in this community and other communities, including yourself. For the great gift may not be the perfect world into which we are given everything that we need. The great gift may be this flawed world into which we are still asked to pour out all the passions of our hearts, all the commitments of our faith, and all the morsels of hope that we can gather up to share just as a communion with those among us. Jones says, the suffering itself is not the source of our redemption. We know that. The persistence of love in the midst of suffering is the redemption. The persistence of love. Jones, who writes about the struggles of those who have experienced a particular form of loss, speaks from her tradition when she says, they imagine God's solidarity with them as they lose the future they had hoped for and carry the weight of this loss inside them into a new future they did not imagine. In 2022, many have lost their imagined future and yet are still reaching out for that source of energy to enter into the one that they do have. That is how we allow life to return again and again in the spring each season, and even in the face of great difficulty and loss. In this time in which Serene Jones, the president of Union Theological Seminary, asks, will we open the door or close it? Ushering in a little of that new kind of hope is probably in order. And we see it all around us if we look. People greeting one another, coming to be together if they can so they can bring connection to others, giving rides and listening ears to those who can't venture out yet, people working to protect the rights of others, people working to help people who are here now on these shores unexpectedly build new lives, people bringing flowers and coming together to comfort those who have experienced loss and to celebrate great achievements like 100 years. Just the taking of another breath, that is also to be celebrated. For as Jones writes, breathing viscerally extends you towards your surroundings, taking in the mundane dimensions of all you encounter, the ebb and flow of the everyday, the not so dramatic unfolding of life in its normal cadence. With this comes remastering the lost art of standing calmly in the present, accepting your life as the gift and the promise. Even in the face of persistent loss, she says, hope is not impossible. What is it that we can do besides recommitting to act as we can? Jones invites us into wonder, saying wondering is the simple capacity to behold the world around you and within you and be awed by its mystery, to be made curious by its difference, and to marvel at its compelling forms. So let's not abandon hope, all ye who enter here. Let's instead embrace and wonder at its new forms, and let us actually be part of creating those as well. Let us see it in the unfurling leaf, in the earthworm who still knows how to venture forward when it rains, even in a time of drought, in the joys of friendship, in the joys of connection, in the miracle of another day of blessed life.